Greetings, loves. It is I, Tactical Girlfriend. Welcome back to the channel. I hope everybody's doing well. Today, I want to talk about pepper spray, what exactly it is, its uses, its purposes, why you might use it, different ways that you can acquire different forms of it, and all the things that you need to know about using it. And it is something that I think is high time I talked about on this channel. I certainly should be talking about it because it is a very important defensive implement. It is the first thing that I generally would grab for my own self-defense, and it's something I carry with me every single day, so it would be unwise for me to not discuss this topic. So hopefully this serves to demystify it a bit. There's a lot of bad information out there, and there's a lot of really important considerations around it. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now first, let's just talk about what pepper spray is. Pepper spray, otherwise known as oleoresin capsicum or OC spray, uses capsaicin as the primary ingredient. It's emulsified in oil and sprayed out of a canister. The effects of it are that when applied to the face, especially the eyes where you generally want to get it, it causes your eyes to have a very excruciating burning sensation, forces the eyes to close shut, and it can induce temporary blindness. It also causes the nose to run and for you to tear up. And when it enters your lungs, it can also cause shortness of breath. All of these effects generally last about 30 to 45 minutes. OC spray is generally considered to be non-lethal. It should not have any long-lasting health effects. Yes, there are some people who are allergic to capsaicin and might have a more dramatic reaction to it, but generally as far as non-lethal implements goes, these things are probably some of the safest things to use, the least harmful things to use against another person. And that's a really important consideration depending on how your threat modeling is going. And it's really cheap, it's readily available where it's legal, and you should do your own research about your own local laws and make sure that you can carry it and understand the situations and scenarios in which you might be justified in using it. Next, let's talk about the different kinds of spray and patterns and formulas that OC spray comes in. The first is going to be, well, spray. It's what pepper spray is named after because traditionally it is just a spray. It utilizes a cone of aerosolized OC that gets projected in front of you. It creates kind of a cloud. It has less range than a lot of other options, but it also has wider coverage, so it doesn't require very much aim to use effectively. Downside is that it does get pretty easily blown back into the user's face by wind. And in an indoor environment, it can fog up the entire room, affecting everybody inside pretty quickly. And for those reasons, I think this is probably one of the least popular options on the market, for good reason, because other technologies have superseded it, but it is kind of the most traditional form of OC spray. The next is my favorite, and that is stream. It's still liquid, but it's a very strong, tight pattern with really good range. It reduces the chances of blowback in outdoor conditions, but it does require finer aim to use effectively. Next, we have gel. Gel has a very tight pattern as well. It has the lowest risk of blowback from the wind, and it won't easily contaminate indoor spaces. It allows for longer distances, but it does require very precise aim to use effectively. It's also harder to wipe off, and it smears easily. Lastly, we have foam, and that coats the face on contact. It's almost like shaving cream. And it's very difficult to wipe off. It has a wider pattern requiring less specific aim. It does not have very good range due to its dispersion, and it often takes longer to take effect. And generally, most OC spray will have an effective range of about under 10 feet, depending on the formula. OC spray is not really something that you want to be using at long range for sure, but it is really good to prevent somebody from closing distance from you and getting into a hands-on situation. If you want to avoid that hands-on situation, which I generally think is wise, it's a really good implement to just give you some standoff if you're trying to escape from an aggressor. Now, there are also some other forms of OC out there that you should probably be familiar with, especially among riot control agents. You have things that are like gas grenades that basically fog up an entire area. You also have pepper balls, which are basically paintballs shot out of paintball guns, literally filled with OC. Those explode on contact and release a cloud around the person that is being hit. You can also get pepper ball guns for civilian use. Certain places you can carry those, and if you are worried about your defense, that might actually be a real consideration that you should take into account. Now, there are also OC sprays that are specifically designed for animals like dogs and bears. Those generally are specific formulas intended for those animals. If you are worried about people, don't fool yourself into thinking that these are going to be more effective. They actually generally won't be. And if you are worried about that, you should definitely get OC spray that is designed to be used against people. Get the right tool for the job. Moving along, let's just talk about some of the different kinds of OC canisters and mechanisms that you should be considering when you are purchasing OC spray. One of the most popular options on the market, and for good reason, is the flip-top safety design. These simply just require you to lift the flip top with your thumb and then to press the button inside. This is really safe to carry. It's very hard to negligently discharge, of course, and especially good for pocket carry if that is a concern for that reason. There are also swivel kinds that use a safety like this that swivels, that you just move to the side with your thumb and then engage by pressing down. These are not good for pocket carry. I don't recommend that for pocket carry. That said, I do carry this every single day, but I do a carabiner carry, and I really haven't had an issue of the safety accidentally being turned off. So it might be good for you, it might not, but this is also just something to keep in mind. And there are quick release mechanisms, like I was just showing you here. The reason I like this for everyday carry is because it simply can just get pulled out of its sleeve at a moment's notice. It's very easy, very swift, and easy to deploy. There are other mechanisms that have a tab that you depress to separate the OC spray from your keychain. I want to like this in theory. I've used this a few times and I immediately regretted it because I've lost multiple canisters this way with mechanisms like that. You can easily bump into them by accident and the spray will just fall off your keychain. It also kind of requires two hands to use so that you're holding on your spray and you press this button. It requires a lot of fine motor skills. I personally hate it and do not recommend it, but unfortunately that really limits what you can get on the market. It is why I carry the swivel top design, even though I do think it's kind of inferior to the flip top design. I can't seem to find a flip top that has this kind of release mechanism, unfortunately. So there's pluses and minuses. There are limited options out there, and those are some very serious considerations around how you might want to carry and what's safest and easiest for you to use. Also, ergonomics is a really important thing to consider. Some of these have finger grooves. They're really nice and easy to hold in your hand. You probably should just get your hands on a bunch of different canisters and just see what feels best in your hands. Some have clips for pockets and such, and that's really handy if you want to pocket carry, but keep in mind that that also can affect ergonomics. It can make it a little hard to get a good grip on it. Minor gripe in my experience, but it is just something to consider. And furthermore, you can also get really large canisters. These things really come in a number of different sizes. Larger canisters might be good for the car or home. If you are worried about home defense, it might not be a bad idea to keep a larger can around. And larger cans generally will have more volume and therefore more uses. But, you know, generally these kind of things are like a one-time thing. You probably don't want to just keep using your spray if you ever had to deploy it. Chances of you having to ever do that in the first place are probably pretty low, but if you do use it, you should probably just replace it so that you replenish that supply. But that is definitely something to consider. In terms of why you would want to carry pepper spray, I would probably have to say this should be pretty self-explanatory, but I'll get into it a little bit here. First of all, if you're serious about your self-defense, you should have non-lethal implements. You should have a series of implements or methods of defending yourself. And pepper spray is kind of a no-brainer. It's very cheap, it's light, it's small, and it doesn't require too much training to get good at using. Furthermore, a non-lethal implement or method of defending yourself is pretty crucial. If you just carry a gun, then I would say you just have a murder fantasy. I carry a gun every single day, but I would never carry a gun without pepper spray. Pepper spray is my first line of defense, and it allows me to have range against an aggressor. It allows me to disable an aggressor and get away from an otherwise terrible situation. The last thing I want to do is close distance and just try to get into fisticuffs with somebody. That could be lethal for me. And further, I sure don't want to perforate somebody if I don't need to. And yeah, pepper spray is just a really, really good, effective tool without doing very much harm relative to other tools out there. So say that pepper spray is the right thing for you, you want to get this implement, you need it, it will be useful for your defense plan, but you don't really know where to start. I can't really tell you exactly what the best thing is out there. There's a lot of different give and take between different systems and brands, so do your own research, but there are a few things to keep in mind. First and foremost is to refer to the percentage of major capsaicinoids in the formula between different brands. That's generally going to be the concentration of the OC spray itself, and it will give you an idea of how powerful that stuff is. Generally, the higher the number, the more effective it will be, the quicker it will act, and that is a pretty important thing to consider. Furthermore, you should also keep in mind that some canisters can only be used when held generally upright, while others, like the ones from Fox, I believe, can be deployed in any angles. So if you are getting into a tumble with somebody, if you anticipate that, that is definitely a pretty big consideration. Also, consider the size, the volume, the form factor, the mechanisms, the range, and spray patterns between different cans and models. That's all going to be very subjective to your use case. Also, keep in mind that OC spray does have an expiration date. The OC itself is not what expires, it's actually the propellant in the can. That just weakens over time, that is just inherent with pepper spray. The shelf life on pepper spray is generally 36 to 48 months, and a lot of people write off pepper spray because they say it expires, and that's a big problem, but so do batteries and food, and I'm sure that doesn't stop anyone. So I don't know why that's a thing, but just check the expiration date, keep an eye on it, put a note in your calendar to replace it when it expires, and get another can. It's really cheap. Next, a really important one, how do you use OC spray? Well, first and foremost, if you ever get yourself in a defensive situation, you definitely need to audibly create an alarm of some sort, tell the attacker to get back, scream, yell, shout, cause some sort of ruckus so that other people might be alerted to the situation in the first place, and furthermore, try to at least get the attacker to maybe pause or stutter. That will buy you some time. Then, if you determine that you actually need to use pepper spray, draw your pepper spray with your dominant hand, keep it somewhere where you can easily do that, and put both hands up. Start moving backwards so that you're creating distance between your target. You can just run away, but sometimes you can't, and that's when pepper spray really shines. Once you determine that you actually need to use a pepper spray, extend with your dominant hand, putting the pepper spray in front of you, but keep your other hand up. Keep both hands out so you can protect your face and your body if anything does come your way. Then, if you determine that it's time to actually deploy the pepper spray, flip that safety off with your thumb, use your thumb as an index point to aim at the target, and then depress the button. Make sure that when you're doing this that you are aiming at the eyes, use a Z pattern starting at the brow, and do that in a short burst. Repeat as necessary. It's really important to keep in mind that pepper spray sometimes takes a little bit to actually take effect on a target, so stay alert, be ready to keep defending yourself, try to keep distance from the target, and yeah, it should eventually work, but sometimes there is a delay, and it's really important to know. Also, make sure that you get practice canisters. Practice with this stuff. It's just like anything else, just like a gun. You should be training with it. If you carry it every day, you definitely should be training with it. And the good thing is that you can basically dry fire with this stuff, but it's not really dry, it's actually wet fire, but most manufacturers out there do make inert practice canisters that just spray water, so it's safe to train with. And generally, I recommend going into an outdoor environment. Try to familiarize yourself with the spray that you're using, know its limitations, test it out, see what the range is and how much coverage you can get on a target at different ranges, and also understand how environmental factors like wind might affect your spray. And also, when you are training with this stuff, make sure that you are using a paper target because you can easily see where the wet marks are, what kind of coverage you're getting, and where your point of aim will actually be. And it's really important to just keep this in mind. A lot of people just carry this stuff and throw it in their pocket and just think that they're going to intuitively use it, but just like any other implement, you absolutely have to train with it. Conversely, let's talk about how to counter the effects of pepper spray if you were to ever get sprayed by it. Now, you could just be in a defensive situation and you might get some on you. It might have gotten blown back in you because you didn't get the right formula and you need to decontaminate. Or somebody could have used pepper spray against you in an offensive manner. It can be both a defense and offensive tool. So just keep this all in mind. You might need to know this. First and foremost, if you do get sprayed with OC spray, do not rub your eyes. That will just increase irritation and it will just spread that stuff. It will get on your hands. Make sure that you don't touch the OC spray and spread it to other parts of your body. That could irritate you, especially if you're going to somehow get that into your private areas. That's not going to be good. Your genitals will be on fire and that's going to make your day even worse. So make sure that you're not spreading that stuff around and trying to keep it contained. Furthermore, if you wear contacts, make sure that you remove those as soon as you possibly can because the OC spray gets trapped under your contacts and it's just going to perpetually burn you until you remove them. Furthermore, get into a ventilated area as fast as you can. That will just help you to breathe better. And blink if you can. If you get sprayed in the eyes, it's going to be pretty hard to do so. You're going to want to keep your eyes closed shut really badly. But if you can blink, that's great. Try to get those tears that are flowing from your eyes to flush all that OC out. And furthermore, if you can, get a friend to flush that out using a water bottle. If your friend happens to have a water bottle, especially one with a sport cap with a nozzle, that would be best. You basically can use that nozzle to direct high pressure water to flush the eyes out. Generally, distilled water is going to be best, but most water will be safe for your eyes. And the technique is simply to hold the eyes open with one hand, and in the other hand, have your friend flush the eye out with a sweeping motion from the inside corner of the eye to the outside corner of the eye so that that all flows out the sides of your face. Again, the idea is to just use water pressure here. There's no secret formula to otherwise dealing with this. You just need that pressure. Some people have unfortunately used milk to do this. That can give you an eye infection. That stuff is riddled with bacteria, especially if you're just carrying it around for some reason. Furthermore, don't use milk of magnesia. That can actually scratch your corneas because it is an abrasive. And there are also Sudocon wipes. These basically can be used on the skin to decontaminate and remove any OC spray on you. They're commercially available. They might be something that you want to consider. And once you get home, take a cold shower. Make a 3-to-1 ratio of Dawn dish soap to water and just thoroughly rinse your entire body. Scrub it very thoroughly. Make sure that you are, again, going from the top of your head all the way to the bottom of your body. Don't recontaminate anything by going in any other order. And again, take very, very, very good care to not get the stuff into your junk. It's just not going to feel good. And yeah, when you get into the shower, you will experience reflash. That is just something that happens where the water will reactivate the OC. You will feel burning sensations. It's not going to be pleasant, but it's a necessary part of the process and you just kind of have to deal with it. Furthermore, make sure that you wrap up all your clothes that have OC on them in a plastic bag, hermetically seal that stuff, throw it in the washer, wash it thoroughly and wash it well. Don't mix it with any other laundry and just try to decontaminate your clothes as soon as you can. And so that wraps up my OC spray expose. I really hope that you all found this video useful. I hope it demystifies the topic a bit for people who are on the fence. And yeah, I think, between harsh words and bullets, there's definitely a very big gap in a defense plan to fill there. I think OC spray very elegantly does so. It's kind of a no-brainer. It's cheap, it's easy to use, it's accessible if you are legally allowed to carry it. It's not very annoying to carry, and it stays out of the way. And you never know, you might need it. You also probably, some of you definitely have used it, I know. And yeah, in my own experience, it's an extremely useful tool. And it's definitely something that I would first want to go to before reaching for something like a gun. So hopefully you found this useful. If you enjoyed this, please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell too. Also, if you got your own thoughts on OC spray or experiences, I'd love to hear more about it, so don't be shy. Feel free to jump in the comments below. And as always, huge shout out to all my supporters on Patreon. You are the lifeblood of this channel. You keep it going. I don't monetize this in any other way. I don't get paid by anyone else to do this. I'm a one-girl show, and I'm just basically trying to break even in this project that is a labor of love, but I do pour a lot of resources and time and energy into this, so anything that you can contribute is really greatly appreciated. So if you want to go help me out, you can always go to patreon.com/tacticalgf. The biggest contributors are named at the end of the video. And so I hope you all stay safe out there. I really appreciate you all tuning in. Please be good to each other out there. And as always, please take care. Bye!